Great long blooming perennial, very attractive to pollinators of all kinds, wonderful silvery foliage. It is a great garden accent all through the year. Russian sage is native to, believe it or not, Russia, south into the stands, Afghanistan, Pakistan, that part of the world. It is one of the longest blooming perennials that you can put in your garden. It's also very, very friendly to pollinators, butterflies, bees, all sorts of pollinators will gather around it. One of the beauties of this plant is that it looks good all the time. The stems and the leaves are a silvery color with some varieties have a white dust, kind of a frocking, if you will, of white on the leaves and stems. So even when it's not in bloom, it has an interest in the garden. That silvery neutral color is really an important kind of resting point for the eye in May and June when everything else is very floriferous. It's nice to have that that color there. It's also very interesting in terms of its growth. It has real strong apical dominance, has a central stem that shoots up, and it looks like a small evergreen tree. As it grows, if it's growing singly, a single stem, you want to have a stake or something to tie it to because it gets a little floppy. Some people get around this by planting 6 or 7 of them in a clump, and they seem to support each other as they grow. Russian sage will grow anywhere from 2 to 5 feet tall, depending on its exposure. When it's in a sunnier location, it will stay low, but if it's looking for light in the shade, it's going to stretch to a larger size. I would give it about 2 feet on each side. There are varieties that grow a little bit smaller. Most of the varietal differences in Russian sage are with the flower color and also in the foliage color and the aspect. It begins blooming here in Connecticut in late July and continues blooming all the way through August, September, till the first hard frost. The plant is hardy in our zone. It's a perennial plant, but it dies down to the ground for us here every year. In warmer climates, you might get the plant as a kind of an almost evergreen through the winter time. The blooms are a lovely blue. There is a variety with a very light violet color flower, but generally they're in that range, the blues. There may be a white one that I've seen blooming. And again, they're very fragrant and attractive pollinators of all sorts, linden flower. It's a great plant to attract pollinators to your garden. Of course, attracting pollinators is just part of the equation to promote a healthy ecosystem in our gardens. We also want to plant plants that provide food for the larvae of the pollinators. This is not one of those. It's just strictly provides pollen and nectar for pollinators. Growing this is not hard at all, but there are a couple things that you have to pay attention to. One is it doesn't like wet feet through the wintertime. You want to plant it in well-drained soil. It'll do just fine in sand. Really likes well-drained soil. Good to have it in sun. Partial shade is okay, but you get better flowering and a more thriftier plant if it's planted in full sun. Another important aspect to Russian sage is that it is a very carefree, pest-free plant. Sometimes I've seen a little bit of rust, which is a fungal organism, on some of the leaves, but it was in a wet spot and a little bit shady. So if you plant it in full sun, well-drained soil, you're good to go. It is a little difficult to grow from seed, but it can be done. It prefers light to to germinate. So you got to plant it on the top of a seeding mix with vermiculite on top of it that will let light in. And it takes a while for the seeds to germinate. But once they germinate, you repot them into larger pots. My suggestion would be to either look for it at one of the small garden centers, or if you have a friend who has the plant, and maybe take a rooted cutting from them. Russian sage. It used to be known as Pereschia atriplycifolia, but it has been moved to the Salvia genus. It's called Salvia yangii now. And this is a result of understanding the genome of the plant, placing it in the Salvia or sage genus. If you like this video, please subscribe and like and share.